Hi, this is Scott with Backstage View. We're sitting here with Loreen Bohannon. She is the tour manager and the sound person for Cabinet. And Lorraine, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure meeting you.
Tell us all about everything you do. I know you do so much for Cabinet. We were just talking about it. Give us a good idea.
Well, I'm the tour manager and the front of house sound engineer. And I'm a sound engineer who tour manages, not the other way around. As a sound engineer, as their front of house sound engineer, when you come to a concert, I am the person who is mixing what you hear in the audience. And then as a tour manager, I'm basically road mom. I get to the venue, I do all the advancing for the show, so I get all of the information we need to make the show happen. I put together the schedule, the tour routing, the
drinks and
the food, the hospitality, the drinks, where people have to be, how they get in the venue, credentials, guest list, merchandise. I do all of it.
But I noticed that you there's no book for this. I mean, you must have learned on the road. Have you done this before? How'd you get into this position?
I learned on the go. Most people on the road you'll talk to kind of learned in the school of hard knocks. I've been doing it for about 10 years, sound. I started when I was 16. And I've toured with bands like Rusted Root and members of Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and I've worked with a lot of really big artists, Rick Springfield, all that stuff. You know, they come in passing, and I got hooked up with these guys because we're from the same area. So I started doing sound. It's their 10-year tour. It's my 10th year doing sound. We started at the same time in the same area. They became a band the year I started doing sound, and so we bumped each other on the way up. Like, I started touring, and I did their monitors a couple of times when they got older, which monitors are the speakers on stage that they hear. So I mixed for them a couple of times.
That's now replaced with earplugs, isn't it?
Yeah. A lot of bands, like Billy Strings, is using in-ear monitors. Cabinet still uses floor wedges, though.
Oh, nice. Now, there's not many women in your position. We were talking about that earlier. What'd you say, like 5%?
Yeah, about 5% of all audio engineers across all spectrums of the business, so live, recording, multi-track live stuff, are women. And an even smaller percentage of that in audio, live audio, which is what we do, live sound.
And now, where did you go to learn all about this?
I started when I was in high school, noodling around in my auditorium, and then my theater teacher brought in a professional sound company to run our musicals when I was a junior and senior in high school. And it happened to be the sound company I still work for 10 years later. They're my home base company, kind of, Rock Street Music in Pittston. And they gave me a shot, you know. They took this little girl who didn't know what they were doing, and there's not a lot of women out there, and they gave me a shot, and that's how I started. I just pushed cases, crappy hours, showed up and harassed them until they gave me work, and eventually, you ask enough questions and you do it enough, you start to get good and you start to love it.
So what are some of the challenges with your day-to-day work, as far as, like, you got a lot of people besides the band? There's the crew. There's what makes you continue to do this year after year?
It's true. This is very much one of those businesses where you gotta love it, or you can't do it. It's hard on your relationships. It's hard on everything. I mean, I deal with everybody in the venue from the top down. So management of the venue, the wait staff, all that stuff. Challenges. I mean, as a sound engineer, I come in every day to a different house system, a different room, different microphones, a different board.
I wanted to ask you about the board. That's not your board, obviously. Do you guys have a board for certain events?
No, we don't carry any production besides backline, which is just our instruments. So we have to use whatever the house provides us in every venue we go to. So as an engineer, for me, that's a challenge because I don't have the same show every night. I'm basically starting their show from scratch every night, like mixing a whole show in the span of their show, where most big acts have a board and they can build their show. Like, they could just drop their board and plug in and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I was wondering because we have 3 bands tonight. There's Cabinet, there's Billy Strings, there's Larry Keel Band. Now, so when you set it up, what are you able to press hold to keep the settings for one until you go to the other, or are they using another board also?
So in our world, we have digital boards now, which are basically big computers. Like, they're just big computers that pass audio. There you go. So you get like different scenes. So Cabinet, I can save the scene as Cabinet, and then Larry Keel, who's after us, can go and build on that scene, like take my scene and do what he wants with it, and then save it, and it becomes like a different show. Almost like files if you're editing documents.
Larry Keel?
No, he has his own engineer.
And as does Billy?
Billy is using the house engineer.
So the house guy, he could also kind of steer you on the intricacies of this particular system.
Usually that is the case with the house people. I usually will take their advice in a room if they offer it. But most of the time you're usually figuring it out. The house guy is usually just offering you how everything is wired so it works with like my file. So for my show file.
Right. And so now it's your job to make sure they're all on the bus when they're supposed to be, or wherever. Is that the big challenge, or does that work?
No, there's 7 of them and 1 of me, and they're all guys that are 30s, so they like to go off and do their own thing. So yeah, that's what I'm road mom. You know, I'm the one they're like, oh, where's the bathroom? Oh, where's the green room? Oh, can I have a drink? Can we go here? Oh, and then I get to run around and go, where are you guys? We need to be on stage, or we need to leave.
Like, do they have cell phones? You can reach them if they leave, or beepers?
We're on a group text at all times, like everybody, and then I can almost always find them because I know where they tend to hang out. And if I can't find them, they know that I'm going to be really mad, so they generally are there within the time period.
So you are the group mom.
Yeah. That's really what a tour manager kind of is. I'm road mom.
So when they're not touring, is that your free time?
One would think, but as the tour manager, I am constantly working for the shows. So during my week, of our time off, I'm emailing venues and advancing our upcoming shows and setting up all the things you see me doing here, I do in advance of the show. So hospitality, which is food and drinks and guest list and load-ins and all that stuff. I'm doing all of that advancing during the week for like shows way, in the
advance.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I'm doing all that, and then I'm typing up schedules and updating logs and merch logs and pay logs, and all kinds of paperwork has to happen to make sure everything is in the right place. So I do a lot of that stuff. Like I do most of my paperwork on Monday after the weekend. I do all my weekend paperwork. And
so I imagine that big headaches of yours could be dependent upon the venue people. If they're not on the same page as you, that gives you headaches.
Absolutely. The worst thing is coming into a venue and not having all of the things you've planned and advanced be done or turn out the way that they're supposed to. And of course there are always things that happen. Like for instance today, it took us a lot longer to sound check because not to our own doing, and it does happen, but we had some patch issues on stage, which means there were things going to the wrong place that we had to figure out. So that added a little bit of time to our check, which pushed our doors back some to make sure all the bands can get in. So even what can be the smallest problem can add 40 minutes to a tight timeline.
Yeah, you don't have 40 minutes now. It's what time are the doors open pretty soon?
They should be open. They're open now. They opened at 6, so they were supposed to open at 6, but I think we opened more like 6:30.
So when Billy I saw when he was doing his sound check, the place was people bowling already. So interesting venue to handle the logistics and the sound of people bowling.
Well, I would have preferred to do our sound check with people bowling, so I know what to expect.
Oh, that's a good point. Good point. Yeah. So what's next for you? You just plan on continue doing this and ride this out, and when you finish, like, how long have you been with this band?
I've been with Cabinet for about 6 months. Prior to this, I was with Rusted Roof for about a year and a half.
Is that the norm for someone in your industry, or there is no such thing as a norm?
There isn't a norm. Most of us are freelancers, so much like any entrepreneur, we're constantly hustling and constantly have many irons in the fire. I am my business, myself, my skills are my business, so I have to be aware of that and market myself in such a way that I become the commodity. And so you have to have irons in the fire at all times, because it is one of the very few industries where someone can look at you and just be like, we're done with you today. That's it. Bye. We don't need your services anymore. So you always have to have backup plans. And
so if they're taking off for any reason, say they're making an album or say they're just on a long time off, are you able to jump on another band for a little while?
Yep, that's exactly what I would do. They actually have some time coming off in January and February, and they forget about me sometimes when they schedule those things, but unlike them, I'm not taking 2 months off. So I will be continuing to work in that time. Whether it's for people related to the band or not is up to them. You know what I mean? It's my career as well. And I can't take 2 months off of my business to accommodate for them, unless they put me on retainer, which, like the big bands, when you start to get to that level, I mean, you get to the bigger bands and you're on retainer, like they're paying you to be off the road just to be available for them. And you're allowed to tour with other bands as long
as you're ready, they need you. Sure, yeah. It's interesting from we're looking at the backstage perspective and seeing your angle as the sound person that you are. The normal thing that the average audience member, they don't think of you until something goes wrong.
Exactly. That is exactly right. And then everybody looks at you. If nobody noticed me through the night, then I did my job the right way. Like Happy, the band recently has started thanking me at the end of the show, and I just want to hide. When everyone turns around and looks at me, I'm like, oh no, they can see me.
I know with the infamous String Dusters, their sound person gets a lot of publicity from the band. I went and saw them a few times, and they talk about their sound person throughout the show, and the audience is yelling out his name, which is kind of cool, I think because you're part of the band. I mean, you're as plugged in as they are, whoever it is, whether you're with a band or a theater or whoever. The sound person is the unrecognized hero. Yeah.
Make it sound good and polish it. Yeah, I that's how I look at it too. I mean, I'm as much an artist as they are in my own way. And so every night it's a performance for me as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But for the String Dusters, I don't know. I kind of have stage fright a little bit. I used to act and stuff like that when I was younger and sing, but I get stage fright even so much as.
Well, I can tell you said they mentioned you at the end of the show and you want to hide.
Yeah, I even before, and I mean maybe every engineer is like that. I don't know. It doesn't matter if I have the same show file. I did Warped Tour this summer, and I had the same show every day, a festival. I could do whatever I wanted. Every time I open up a board between sound check and show, those 2 minutes while I'm waiting for the band to come on, I'm just sweating a little. I get really nervous, performance anxiety. Even though I know it's gonna be fine, I'm still
But I can't blame you, because if something goes wrong, all eyes are on you.
Well, and I have to be able to fix it without all eyes on me. Sometimes I get a little stressful when things are happening, but I try to handle it in such a way that no one really knows that there's something going wrong, because if you're gallivanting across stage in the middle of someone's song, being they're gonna know something's wrong. But if you handle it quietly and subtly, no one will know. Even if you don't have like half the band going, no one will know that it's happening. They'll just be, oh, I don't really hear the mandolin. I wonder where that is. And then I'll get it fixed. It'll be like, oh, there it is.
That's great. Well, that's the backstage view that we're looking to find out about, because that's some interesting stuff that you have. Sounds like you should, there's not a book on what you do until you write it.
Exactly. Every band is different and has different needs from their tour manager and sound person. So every band needs you to manage them a different way, and you can't like use a book on any of it. And every person has their own, every band and every organization has their own like set way of doing things that you have to kind of learn. And then I have 7 guys up there, 7 personalities that I have to manage, and each of them need to be managed in a different way. So there's so many elements to just managing the people.
So when you tour, is it you just have one vehicle, everyone's in it, and from spot to spot, and you got to figure out the hotels and all that stuff? Wow.
Yeah, all that, what route are we taking? Hey, is this one going to be going up some really windy mountains? Is there a way we can stay on the highway so it's not as hard on us? Yeah, we're towing that big trailer. It's a lot of weight on a van. There's 7, 8 of us in there too, adding to the weight, all the gear. Hotels, traffic. I always have to be in the van on my phone watching the GPS to see if there's any huge slowdowns to make sure we can route around it if we need to for timing. I'm the one that makes sure the band isn't late, so when we schedule like a show, I'm the one that schedules the drive. So I'm also responsible for padding the time, as I call it, to make sure we have like 2 or 3 hours to make sure we have enough time to get to the venue with stops and traffic and any unexpected things that could arise. Like we had a flat tire before the one gig 2 weeks ago. Before the Sherman on, what's today, Monday? So before the Sherman on Saturday, we were coming from Vermont overnight, and at 4 a.m. in the middle of the night, 4 miles from our hotel, our alternator went.
Oh, wow.
So I was up with a couple of the guys. We had to get that handled. Not only that, but we had to get it fixed. Otherwise, we wouldn't be making it to our biggest hometown show. So we had to get it in, get the alternator changed in the morning. So I got into my hotel room at probably like 6:30. I was up at 9 to make sure that the van was getting fixed and would be ready in time so we could make the show. And luckily, we made the show right on time to our load-in at 3 p.m. with very little sleep, all of us running on maybe 2 or 3 hours. But these are like things that happen all the time on the road that no one has any idea about, that we all handle. And we walk in and have to do a show and look like we haven't just had like 2 hours of sleep for 2 days.
Well, Loreen, thanks so much. All the Cabinet fans, I hope that they hear this loud and clear, and everyone's going to start embarrassing you and thanking you along the way. And I know the band really appreciates all you do, and the fans do, and I appreciate you telling us and giving us a backstage view on what's going on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for interviewing me. It was awesome.